Hey guys, imagine you're chilling at home playing your favorite game, and suddenly your controller's gone. It's gone. Who took it? Well, I'll tell you who. A Karen from Australia, that's who. Sounds nuts, right? Right now, there's a small group of loud, angry, obnoxious Karens who have figured out exactly how to hold gaming companies hostage. And it's working. They've managed to get Visa, they've managed to get MasterCard, who handle practically every dollar you spend online, to start censoring games they don't like. And if you think it stops at some weird niche adult game, I've got some real bad news for you. Anyway, let's get into it.
Censorship going on in gaming right now. I'm sure a lot of you saw Steam a few days back announced that hundreds of games have been pulled from their catalog because of the efforts of a group known as Collective Shout.
Collective Shout is a collection of the 10 most undesirable, jealous, egotistic, and self-indulging Karens in Australia. Collective Shout is a collection of the 10 most undesirable, jealous, egotistic, and self-indulging Karens in Australia. These are the A-listers and top achievers in Karenocracy. In Pokemon terms, they're like the legendary shiny Pokemon and the final form of the Karen evolution. Think about the power dynamic here. You've got a handful of middle-aged, egotistical women who probably peaked in high school, whose entire world revolves around policing others' entertainment. They weaponize morality as their method of attack, disguising pure jealousy and personal insecurities as concern for children or protecting women. They don't care about the kids. They don't care about women. They never did. The only thing they care about is control. And you know exactly how they do this. They don't do it by convincing people of making good arguments. No. They win by complaining. They win by being the loudest, being the most annoying people in the room. And the only time they win is when you start listening. The only time they win is when you start bending the knee to them. They don't even play their game, and you should be terrified that a group of 10 of the most annoying Karens in the world, all the way in Australia by the way, can effectively tell you what to do, can effectively tell you what to play, and what to spend your money on. Imagine one neighbor shutting down the whole neighborhood barbecue because she doesn't eat meat. It's delusional.
Collective Shout is an organization that has been forcing payment processors to bully platforms into removing games they deem unfit for sale due to the themes around them. And for Steam's case, they targeted hundreds of adult games that featured like rape and incest. And a lot of people were pumping their fist like, yeah, that's good. How could you possibly be mad at that? Less degeneracy and disgusting shit on the platform. This is a big
People love using this line, right? Less degeneracy, that's good. How could anyone be mad at that? But the issue isn't the content itself, frankly. I could give two shits about incest or rape games. They're weird, but weird isn't illegal. If weird were illegal, then we'd ban all Karens and send them to the loony bin, the mental institution. The issue is you've got Visa and MasterCard, the two companies controlling basically every transaction online, or in the world actually, deciding what is and isn't okay. Imagine going to McDonald's, ordering fries, and the cashier saying they won't sell you fries because they're bad for you. Bitch, just put the fries in the fucking bag. These companies have effectively become a shadow government. This is literal racketeering. They're holding entire companies hostage, and a lot of people are sitting here letting them because we don't like those games. And a lot of people are sitting here letting them because we don't like those games anyway? What happens tomorrow when they decide something else is morally objectionable, like GTA or Call of Duty? Because violence is also NSFW. Killing women characters in GTA is also NSFW. What about Bayonetta? What about Nier Automata? What about Stellar Blade? That by their standards are not realistic women because they're overly sexualized and catering to a male audience. Because they could potentially never achieve their body type? Because they're too busy complaining rather than doing? Where does this end? And it's insane we're even at this point.
Across the board. It's not censorship if it's things I don't like being taken down. Obviously, like every weapon out there, this is only going to be used for good. Clearly, they're only going to use this power to take down very bad, gross things. Which is the most low IQ take you could ever have.
Yep,
Collective
exactly.
Shout just yesterday has now also gone after itch.io, and they have removed every single not suitable for work game from their platform. Not just rape and incest games, all adult games. We have de-indexed all adult NSFW content from our browse and search pages.
And by the way, adult games, these games are not for children. If your kids are able to take your credit card, log on to your computer, and purchase these games without any parental guidance, I think you've got some bigger problems here.
Understand this action is sudden and disruptive, and we are truly sorry for the frustration and confusion caused by this change. Recently, we came under scrutiny from our payment processors regarding the nature of some content hosted on itch.io, due to a game titled No Mercy, which was...
So, No Mercy, for anyone not familiar, is this edgy adult game where basically you're playing as this villainous psycho-type character doing the nastiest shit imaginable. Things like sexual assault, abuse, manipulation, just the absolute worst things. It's an extreme adult fantasy, the kind of thing you might find if you go onto any, let's say, adult website under their roleplay or fantasy categories. And shocker to no one, the people playing the game knows it's a game. It's pixels on a screen. It's a fictional scenario for people who are into that particular fantasy to engage with privately. Now, here's the hypocrisy of it. These types of fetishes have existed forever in porn. Literally, there's an entire billion-dollar industry where people watch this shit every single day. And yet we're supposed to believe someone who plays No Mercy is suddenly going to step outside and commit real-life sexual assaults? You're telling me someone who plays GTA and suddenly wanna go... You're telling me someone who plays GTA is suddenly going to wanna be a gangbanger? No! Anyone dumb enough to become a criminal after playing a video game was already fucked in the head to begin with. Okay? Let's be honest here. But I'm sure at least one person thinks this is real. Absolutely, you're totally right, but that one person is a complete nutjob. Part of the extreme minority. Should we also ban all cars and games with cars because some idiot played Mario Kart and decided to drift their fucking Corolla around a roundabout and crashed? Are you dumb? What are we even doing here?
Temporarily available on itch.io before being banned back in April, the organization Collective Shout launched a campaign against Steam and itch.io directing concerns to our payment processors about the nature of certain content found on both platforms. So this is the playbook here. Collective Shout is a very powerful organization who somehow has a lot of leverage on payment processors. I don't know if they're just over there giving them perpetual wet willies or they got some serious dirt on like the upper echelon elites in the food chain at the payment processors. Like they got proof they're in the Epstein files or some shit. But they have got these payment processors by the nutsack, and they are squeezing the piss from their balls. So now the payment processors are LARPing as the moral authority on what people are allowed to spend the money they earned on.
Yep.
So they're making these sweeping censorship changes to Steam and itch.io. Steam, they made it very easy for the public to not make a big stink about it because they went after a very low-hanging fruit target that most people aren't going to be upset about.
Exactly. But the problem is you never ever give these people attention because that's the only way they gain power. Laugh at them, ignore them, and treat them as they are, children who never grew up and are now trying to police other adults as if they were children as well, right? Excuse you, I'm not a child. I am a grown adult who can buy my own ice cream now. Thank you very much. And fries. I can buy fries now too. Absolutely no average person is going to have the time in their day to even give this a glance. Because if you don't support it, then by default you support what? You support rape and incest? Is that what you're trying to say? And that's an insane claim in of itself. But that's not the actual claim, right? Oh, you're calling me fat. Are you fat phobic? No. I'm just worried about you because you're 400 pounds over your BMI and that's your 5th Big Mac. Can you look down for a second? What do you see? Why, is there something on my Gucci shirt? No, you're supposed to see your feet. When was the last time you saw that?
Oh no, you lost all your rape and, incest games. Boo-hoo, call the fucking ambulance. But what people don't realize is that is clearly just the first step here. Collective Shout has now already taken that, which hasn't even been like a full week, and it's translated it to wiping all adult content from itch.io, a totally separate platform using the same methodology of having the payment processors threaten to leave them.
Yeah,
Censorship
that's
is
insane.
not something that is a good thing. This is not a positive thing. Yoko Taro also came forward saying, like, this is pretty bad stuff, that other countries can now limit everyone else's free speech.
And he's absolutely right.
That's not great. You don't like to see that. And let's go ahead and extend this to its natural conclusion here. As Collective Shout becomes more and more successful at censoring games, other organizations will spring up and do the same for things Collective Shout maybe doesn't want to see censored. Like, who's to say, with this censorship, now that it's proven that it can be done by having the payment processors threaten to pull out of these services, if you can bully them through the payment processors, you win. That's checkmate.
The Karens basically turn on a giant beacon of light. And now all these maggot Karens that are just waiting to hatch into full-blown flies are gonna swarm this thing like it's their last meal. You think they're just gonna stop at some like creepy incest game? Hell no. Once you teach these parasites how to usurp power using payment processors out of everything in the world, every single group with some kind of moral agenda, or even worse, political agenda, will weaponize it. Imagine if suddenly people who think OnlyFans is morally objectionable start using this playbook. What happens then? What about websites or platforms you actually use? You're handing out free baseball bats at a bar fight and acting shocked. You're gonna act shocked when you're the one getting hit. You don't get to pick and choose what gets banned once you open Pandora's box. Welcome to the clown world where every single loud minority can get things banned. And if you supported it once, good luck crying when they come for something you actually enjoy. It's just that simple. But the counter-argument is, payment processors have a right to choose who they do business with, right? Sure, they can choose. But when two companies control 90% of the global payment system, this isn't choosing anymore. It's basically dictating, right? It's like saying the electric company can choose not to give power to people who watch shows they don't like. At some point, choice, becomes control. But there's a clear difference between extreme games and mainstream services, right? You think there's a clear difference until somebody else decides that your mainstream interests are extreme. What happens when the loudest Karen decides that GTA is extreme? The definition of extreme is never stable. Today it's incest games, tomorrow it's your favorite Netflix show. I draw the line at is it legal? Then it should be allowed. Is it illegal? Then say bye-bye.
Who's to say an organization doesn't pop up that wants to take away all kinds of LGBTQ representation in games? And now that they have a proven formula to follow, they could easily spring up and be probably very successful. Another organization could come about where they believe that M-rated games just shouldn't exist. Games should be focused purely to appeal to a younger demographic. They shouldn't be deep, thought-provoking games. There should be no violence. There could easily be a very puritanical organization that comes forward making similar pushes for censorship. I don't know how delusional you have to be to think that somehow this is only ever going to be used against bad things.
Yes, any and all censorship is bad. All this is going to do is isolate people and turn them into mindless sheep, which, to be fair, most people are already, right? Which might not sound so bad for these governments and these companies, but, for the free thinkers, you and me, with something in our noggins, this is the road right here to idiocracy. And you don't even have to look that far back. Everybody remembers COVID, right? They're only doing it for our own good, shaming people for not following the mandates. You can't come to work if you don't get your shots. They're trying to take you hostage again. Except now maybe they want to go a little bit slow because there isn't some massive world-ending sickness out there. But it turned out they were lying to you. Censorship doesn't work. It's not productive. And the only time censorship should ever be used is if you want an authoritarian society. If censorship worked, North Korea would be the happiest place on earth. And spoiler, they're not.
It's not. And it's already extending way beyond what it started with for Collective Shout. They started with a very easy win on a genre of games that most people aren't really going to miss. And they have already extended that to just broad adult content from another platform, itch.io.
Yep, give an inch, they take a mile. Next, it's violent games. Then it's racing because it promotes bad driving. Next, it's The Office because it promotes toxic behavior to your peers, and the list goes on. Might as well watch Tom and Jerry. Oh wait, I can't because that promotes animal cruelty. What about Batman? Nope, that promotes vigilantism. Can I play Mario? Nope, because Bowser kidnapping Peach and Mario having to rescue her is sexist, and it's normalizing kidnapping, but mostly sexist. What are we even talking about here?
And as they continue to be more successful, more organizations are going to follow that blueprint, follow those footsteps, and be successful as well, censoring other things that maybe Collective Shout doesn't want to see censored. It's going to just be fucking pandemonium, because it is clear now that these platforms are willing to go belly up, roll over, and suck the fucking schmeat of the payment processing cartel that shackles them. These payment processing patriots, who all of a sudden care so deeply about morality, are able to get these platforms to censor themselves at the behest of the organizations that are strong-arming them. It's absurd.
I think, honestly, they don't even care about morality, right? They're just going on a power trip, that's it.
And it doesn't stop there. If you do any amount of research on Collective Shout, you'll see that it's not just like adult games. They also went after Detroit Become Human and Grand Theft Auto 5 for absolutely fucking outlandish reasons. Like, this is actual horse hockey. And another scary fact, the article I was reading on stream, which I'm going to show you clips from so you can see about their previous attempts to go after things like Detroit Become Human and GTA 5, that article that I was reading then got taken down 8 hours after stream.
Jesus Christ.
Vice deemed it was a little too controversial, because the article wasn't super favorable to Collective Shout.
The reason why they're able to do this is because they create a false consensus that these news companies are beholden to. Because they are in fact paid by the viewers, right? And if you can get them to think the consensus of their viewers lean, let's say XYZ, then you're going to get them to do XYZ. Practically all news outlets are basically confirmation bias machines. There's just so few that are still putting out real journalism now. And, you know, if you're one of them, like, good job. If you're not, though, you're fucked.
So Collective Shout not only has pull in censoring games, but it looks like they can even take down some articles that are a little, harsh on how they're going about their mission or what they're trying to do here. In other words, it seems virtually impossible for Steam to host any adult games depicting child abuse. Rather, Collective Shout may be targeting popular video games that depict children in scenarios where they face distress or harm, even if these depictions are intended to encourage concern and care in the player.
It's the intent that matters here, and whether that intent can be conveyed to your target consumer. There are many movies and games that depict children growing up in distress and harm. It's character growth. That happens in real life too. Rough upbringings turn people into stronger men and women. People actually grow up having rough childhoods, believe it or not. That's called character development. Even in Harry Potter, Lord Voldemort literally tries to murder him as a baby, then he's shoved in a closet for a decade. I don't see these Karen organizations screaming, "Ban Harry Potter," because everyone understands it's a story. It's meant to convey deeper meanings about strength, resilience, and overcoming adversity. These Karens latch on to any scenario that gives them emotional leverage. Oh, the poor children, when in reality, depicting difficult situations in stories is exactly how you teach empathy and growth. They're just so superficial. And by the way, can't these games normalize harmful scenarios even unintentionally? There's an entire genre of entertainment. There's a reason the entire genre of entertainment has the term fiction. That's basically the beginning and the end of this conversation. If you have to debate people about mixing fiction and reality, well, maybe the material isn't even the problem. Maybe it's the kids' upbringing, right? And I guarantee you, every single one of these kids, these Karens bring up, if they even have kids and husbands to begin with, are a bunch of soy boys and soy girls. And that should scare you, because soon, they'll be able to vote.
There, the organization may be describing these titles as featuring child abuse. In 2018, Collective Shout encouraged its supporters to sign a petition to ban Detroit Become Human for sale in Australia, claiming the game features child abuse and violence against women. The petition focused on an abusive father's violent behavior towards his housekeeper and daughter in the game.
Yeah,
This
right.
dynamic, core to the character Kara's story arc, is intended to encourage empathy for the abused woman and child. While it's unclear whether Collective Shout is actively targeting Detroit Become Human in 2025, the removal of such a game would be akin to artistic censorship of material discussing misogynistic abuse against female family members.
This right here is, I think, peak irony. You have Collective Shout who claim they're all about protecting women and children, trying to ban a game that does exactly that. It highlights and condemns domestic violence and abuse. The character Kara, who, by the way, is an android, spends the entire game fighting against an abusive father, protecting his daughter, and exposing the reality of how... Not in the entire game, right? And exposing the reality of how it is to overlook domestic violence. If anything, this game actively promotes empathy for abused women and kids. What Collective Shout is actually doing is shooting themselves in the foot. This is anti-feminist by their own logic. It's literally a story made to show how horrible domestic abuse is. And here you have these Karens trying to censor it because it contains misogyny? Of course it does. Of course it does. That's the point. Misogyny is the villain. Are you going to ban movies about slavery because they depict slavery? These people have no critical thinking whatsoever. But there are better ways to raise awareness than entertainment. Entertainment is literally the best way to raise awareness. You think people sit around reading 500-page academic papers on domestic abuse? No! They watch movies, play games, and connect emotionally with characters. Where else are you going to get such visual and visceral way of experiencing abuse firsthand? Of actually feeling the tension, fear, and injustice without actually living through it yourself? Good entertainment lets you step into the shoes of someone facing something horrible, and that's how people actually learn empathy. Most people, at least, I'd hope, aren't getting physically abused by their parents every day, right? And I'm not talking about abuse like your mom saying, no, you can't have your third ice cream for the day. You just had one hour ago. And you start acting like you're oppressed or something. I'm talking actual serious harm. Being told no constantly in childhood when it's reasonable is actually good parenting, by the way. But when it's done wrong, like being overly strict about dumb shit, that's exactly what creates these Karens. Their whole identity revolves around projecting their past frustrations and bitterness onto everyone else. These Karens probably spent their entire childhood being told no to everything. No ice cream, no friends, no fun. And now, they're finally getting their petty revenge by policing everyone else's lives. And entertainment. They didn't get controlled then, so now they fantasize about it. It really is that simple.
Targeting the game, in other words, could be considered anti-feminist in intent. That doesn't really make any sense. In 2014, the organization called on Target to remove Grand Theft Auto 5 from store shelves, sharing a petition that claims the game encourages players to commit sexual violence and kill women. Collective Shout described GTA as if it were a misogynistic funhouse, stating the game lets players enact their fantasies of committing extreme violence against women, including punching women to the point of unconsciousness, killing them with a bat, gun, or machete, running them down with a car, and setting them on fire as they continue screaming.
I don't know about them, but I don't go around in-game thinking to myself, wow, look at all these women I can hit, set on fire, and so on. This is just not what normal people think. You can tell right away. If this is what they think people are doing in-game and thinking about doing in-game, think about how devoid from reality they are. I'm not just hitting women in-game. What, you think these fists are exclusive to women? What the fuck? No! In-game, of course.
What world are we living in? What? So that all this is only reserved and acceptable if it's men. If you're killing
it's crazy.
Men with a bat, gun, and machete, running them down with a car and setting them on fire as they scream. These arguments are so weak and flimsy, and I think just downright detrimental to what they claim their mission is. This would basically, like these two things in conjunction, would make it so like most games won't even put women in there. So let's take the first example about like how children in like distress and harm is something that they would target and try and take down. It's why they went after Detroit Become Human. Let's extend that scope. Things like Limbo, Last of Us, Out of Sight, like these games where there are kids present and they do go through like hardship, that would be removed under their guidelines here.
Yep.
In Detroit Become Human, it's not like they're trying to glorify this type of horrible thing. It is used as a way of showcasing how bad a situation is and getting empathy from the player for what is happening to these characters.
Absolutely,
and yet they want to take it down, even though it is used to deliver positive messaging to the player. It's like they don't want any deep themes in their games, and not only that, it's like they don't want women to even be interactable in the games. So also something that wouldn't fly under their protocol here would be things like Tomb Raider. Any game where a female is leading it wouldn't really be possible because the women in the game are going to go through distress. Like Lara Croft goes through a lot worse than what they listed for GTA 5 being a misogynistic funhouse. Lara Croft gets killed in so many different ways, potentially if you fail certain things. She's constantly being hunted, hurt. It's all like pretty much no game with a female character in it could be made if Collective Shout continues to gain this much power.
This is both true and false with these kinds of people. You have, it's true that if this type of censorship becomes mainstream, they'll just start removing women in games in general. Yeah, that's true. Why would a dev want to risk their boat by bringing in 10,000 pounds of TNT? They just wouldn't. At the same time, the thing these Karens absolutely hate more than anything isn't the abuse, isn't the harm it's bringing to women and children. It's looking at pretty women. They're jealous. It's looking at pretty women. They're jealous. That's all there is to it. What they absolutely hate more than anything else is looking at women who are actually attractive, because every pixel-perfect Lara Croft reminds them of every time they got rejected for their looks, when it might not even be the looks actually. I guarantee you if they replaced Kara from Detroit Become Human with someone who looked exactly like them, and you know the stereotype, they would have no problem with it. In fact, they'd call it empowering, innovative, creative. That and the woman has to be the one beating on the man. These are the types of games that are going to be churned out if this continues.
It's a fucking absurd notion here. God of War, the new God of War, those games couldn't be made because Kratos' son obviously goes through a lot there. That would be a child in a harmful and distressing situation. It would be poo-pooed by Collective Shout. They would banish that shit to the Shadow Realm.
Yep.
Like, their rules on what is and is not acceptable are just unhinged. Again, this would fundamentally, like, scrub women from video games. Like, I don't know why they're not grasping that
to a certain
concept.
degree, yes.
They call GTA 5 a misogynistic funhouse because you can hurt women in it and that kind of thing, which you can also do to men. But the issue is exclusively because women can also be hurt and killed in GTA 5 just like the men can. It's not like GTA 5 is telling the player, you have to go commit these sexual violent acts against women right now. We need you as the player to score 100 sexual violent crimes against our women in the city right now. Really? Go out there. That's the quest. Go fucking just slap 1,000 women for maximum turbo gamer points. Like, it's pretty fucking crazy. So basically, if you are going to have women in the games, the only way I see that even be possible with Collective Shout's, groundwork they're laying here, the way I understand it, is if every female in the game is immortal, God mode activated, and uninteractable outside of dialogue and cutscenes, but
and ugly.
The female character also cannot go through anything distressing or deep, basically has to just be like a completely flat nothing burger of a character. Otherwise, it could be like too much harm that they faced or something in the game.
And this is why a lot of movies suck now as well. It's the same type of mentality of being too afraid to say anything that could offend even a single person. One person, really. When that's inevitable, make the best possible product and people will support you. Make a sensible movement and people will support you. Crash out like what they're doing now and people will laugh at you.
It just seems completely antithetical to what the mission they claim to have is. Again, with how they have targeted games in the past and what they're currently doing, it feels like most game companies, in order to play ball with these demands, will probably just elect to not have female-facing games, like with a lead female protagonist, and
No, what are you talking about? Of course they'll have games with female protagonists. Didn't you like Dragon Age Veilguard? I mean, insufferable characters that nobody wants to play and listen to. That's what we're gonna get.
they will probably ensure that the female characters that might appear in the game don't play a big role in it because they never know what Collective Shout might have an issue with. And since these games' budgets are so bloated these days, I don't think they'll be willing to take any kind of chances, any type of risk of their game being just like wiped off of like the biggest fucking gaming platforms like Steam. So they'll probably just elect to play it safe and have any female characters just in the background with a really insignificant role. Because, again, there's no way of knowing what Collective Shout's going to try and spin when it comes to these games and these characters. Like, again, Detroit Become Human. All of that they listed there as an issue, that was literally in the game to deliver messaging on how unacceptable that shit is.
I think if this censorship continues, it will self-correct. It's just going to be another cycle of woke games, nobody buys, studios shut down, and then we go back to normal. And then back to complaining again. These companies don't care about morals, they care about the money. People care about morals. But money isn't a problem when you have a monopoly, by the way. Whoever made this decision at Visa or MasterCard needs to be looked at very extensively. These companies need to be regulated and charged with racketeering. Somebody needs some extreme accountability. Do that and this problem goes away almost immediately.
It was used for empathy, not a glorification or anything at all. It was actually delivering a message that really feels very in line with what Collective Shout claims to fight for. It is completely out of control. And let's go ahead and just continue to play a little here, a little theater of the mind. If you can successfully bully payment processors, and it's reported that Collective Shout is doing this by constantly phoning them up with like 1,000 employees or so. I don't know if that's all confirmed or not. But if you can get 1,000 people together and successfully have these payment processors threaten to leave some of the biggest platforms for gaming, think about what kind of power you can control with these payment processors. If you can just have them like puppets on your strings, that is so dangerous.
This is honestly just like handing a loaded gun to a bunch of kids and setting them loose, right? Because that's essentially what they are. They're a bunch of children. At some point, you just gotta stop giving them guns.
There is no amount of mental gymnastics you can possibly do to conjure up a justification for why a payment processor has a say in what you can spend your money on, what they will permit you to spend your doubloons on. That is a bad direction for the future, which obviously extends far beyond just video games. This is a much bigger topic, a bigger issue than just gaming.
Absolutely
if payment processors now going to step in and basically be like the fucking, lacrosse house party guy who's like, who do you know here? No, you're not allowed in. When you're trying to spend your money on a product, we've got a huge problem. Just play with that possibility here for a second. Like, let's say you want to buy a dildo or something, right? You want an adult sex toy.
Yeah.
Well, what if the payment processors deem those to be obscene? We will not support any businesses that are selling these adult toys. Consumers shouldn't be able to buy these.
Then it's gone.
All of a sudden you can't buy those. That's been fucking wiped out. And let's take it to something that's not even sexual. Let's say a katana or something. I want a katana for my room. I really like some of the blades from One Piece. It'd be really nice to have a replica blade. Well, turns out the payment processors deem those to be a little too dangerous and threaten to pull out of any websites that are offering katanas for sale because those are some very scary, lethal weapons.
Ooh.
So, can't buy those anymore. It's a big issue. Payment processors should have no say in what you spend your fucking money on. Of course, that doesn't apply when it's like you trying to buy something highly illegal. I get that. But things like this is absurd. Like, this is completely preposterous and out of control. Anyway, I just had to yap about this a bit. That's really it. See ya.
Yep, I completely agree with him here. The only time payment processors should be denying payment is when it's illegal. If it's illegal, do your fucking job. If you don't like it, go and run for president or something. And let's not forget that this is on a completely different continent, by the way.